Welcome to Gamo Theories, where I introduce theories of management, administration, and leadership. This is episode 41. Today we'll explore organizational norms. Social norms influence our daily life, like how much to tip at a restaurant, and significant matters like who to vote for in an election. Norms are also important in workplaces because they shape our behavior in organizations. Through norms, we have an idea of what behaviors are approved by others and what behaviors others engage in themselves. This understanding of organizational norms and team norms guides how we behave at work. We tend to follow the attitudes and behaviors we see our colleagues endorsing and displaying because we want to fit in. So our actions at work reflect what we perceive as normal behavior for our team or organization. When we talk about norms, it's important to know that there are two types: descriptive norms and injunctive norms. Descriptive norms are about what behavior is commonly observed in a specific context. They inform us about what actions are likely to be effective or fitting in that situations. For example, many team members send emails after work hours. Your observation of the behavior of sending emails after work hours is a descriptive norm. It signifies the common practice of attending to work-related communication outside regular working hours. Descriptive norms are about what people actually do. By contrast, injunctive norms are about what people believe should be done. They are behaviors considered acceptable or unacceptable within a group. For example, it is expected that employees dress in formal attire for client meetings. Employees are expected to adhere to this standard to maintain a professional image. This expectation demonstrates the organization values formal dressing as an injunctive norm for client meetings. Injunctive norms influence our actions because we seek social rewards associated with conforming to those norms or want to avoid punishments associated with not conforming to those norms. The term injunctive norm originates from the concept injunction, which refers to a command, order, or directive that restricts or regulates certain action. Injunction comes from the Latin word injunctio, which is derived from a verb meaning to join or to impose. In legal context, a summary injunction means a temporary court order issued to prevent certain actions or behaviors until a final decision or judgment is made in a case. It is a legal remedy used to maintain the status quo or protect the rights of parties involved in a legal dispute. In the context of social norms, an injunctive norm represents the perceived social approval or disapproval associated with a particular behavior. People often mix up the difference between descriptive norms and injunctive norms. This confusion arises because what is commonly approved of often aligns with what is commonly practiced within a group, but not always. For example, we believe that employees should keep shared kitchen areas clean and tidy, which is an injunctive norm. But the reality could be that many employees do not clean up after themselves, which is a descriptive norm. Here is a question. When there is a mismatch between descriptive norms and injunctive norms, which norm takes precedence? One key factor is the salience of the norm. That is, norms are more likely to motivate and guide behavior when they are prominent in a specific situation. Let's consider the example of meeting rules where each team member is supposed to have equal speaking time and turns. That's what we believe should be done, which is an injunctive norm. However, a couple of meeting goers dominate the majority of the meeting time and frequently interrupt others. That's what we observe, which is a descriptive norm. When the two norms clash, the salience of the norms comes into play. If the dominating behavior is frequently witnessed and tolerated by a team leader who presides over the meeting, It reinforces the descriptive norm and reduces the likelihood of other team members following the injunctive norm. On the other hand, if the team establishes a strong reminder and agreement that emphasizes the importance of equal participation and discourages interruptions, it enhances the salience of the injunctive norm and increases the likelihood of other team members following it. Not all norms have the same influence. Since people encounter norms from different sources, such as family, friends, coworkers, and others, the salience of the norms can vary depending on the context. In the specific context of meetings in the workplace, coworker norms related to equal participation and respectful communication are more influential. However, in different contexts, such as family gatherings, family norms may have a greater impact. Regardless, the salience of the norms guides and shapes our behavior in a given context. Sometimes the norms of a social group are clearly stated and understood by all members. Other times, norms are not explicitly written down, but rather informal and implied. It is important to consider how people perceive those norms. Are we good at accurately understanding group norms? Research consistently shows that we tend to misperceive norms, especially when it comes to negative or harmful behaviors. When negative attitudes and behaviors are involved, most people incorrectly believe that those negative behaviors are more common than they actually are. Even though those behaviors are not typical, people mistakenly think they are the norm. This misperception can lead people to engage in similar negative behavior due to the pressure to conform to the perceived norms. This phenomenon is known as a reign of error. Much of the harm caused by negative group influences comes from people's misperceptions of group norms. Applying the reign of error to the management context, this misperception of norms can have adverse effects on organizations. For example, if employees believe that their coworkers are adopting a go-slow approach in their work, perhaps influenced by high-profile coworkers who promote this behavior, others may start working less productively themselves to align with the perceived group norm. There is clear evidence that norms-based behavioral change is most effective when the descriptive and injunctive norms are presented in alignment with one another. When we are told that a particular behavior is approved of and we frequently observe that behavior, we are most likely to conform to that norm. When the two norms clash, what norm should leaders prioritize if leaders want to change team members' behavior? Injunctive norms are more effective when negative behavior is common. That is, we should focus on the disapproval for the negative behavior. Suppose your team has a prevalent issue of team members arriving late for meetings. In this case, you can prioritize injunctive norms by emphasizing the disapproval of the negative behavior of arriving late. You can communicate that punctuality is expected, establish clear guidelines regarding meeting start times, and highlight the negative consequences of lateness. For example, deducting work hours from the time lost due to lateness and losing certain privileges or opportunities. By focusing on the disapproval of the negative behavior, we discourage team members from continuing the habit of arriving late. Descriptive norms are more effective when positive behavior is common. For example, team members are already consistently demonstrating a positive behavior, such as actively contributing to group discussions. In this case, we can highlight descriptive norms to reinforce and encourage the positive behavior. By emphasizing that active participation is common and approved of within the team, we motivate team members to continue their engagement and even inspire those who may be less inclined to participate actively. As we establish norms and change team members' behavior, we may have unintended negative consequences, such as resistance or opposition from the team. When people feel pressured or coerced, they may react by engaging in the opposite behavior to assert their independence or to resist the perceived influence. This is known as a boomerang effect or norm backlash effect, where the intended behavior change does not occur or may even be reversed. For example, if a social norm campaign focuses on the prevalence of underage drinking and highlights that most students engage in this behavior, some individuals may react by resisting the message and increasing their engagement in underage drinking as a form of rebellion or to assert their autonomy. Here is a question. Is it possible that some people refusing to take COVID vaccines can be attributed, at least in part, to norm backlash effects? Is it possible that some people perceive vaccine mandates as a form of coercion or infringement on personal freedoms? And this perception of pressure to conform to a specific norm, in this case, getting vaccinated, can trigger a resistance response. What do you think? Norm backlash effects can also occur when there is a mismatch between descriptive norms and injunctive norms. For example, a team leader wants to create an innovative culture and encourages team members to think outside of the box and take calculated risks. That is an injunctive norm. However, if team members observe that mistakes or failures are met with heavy criticism or negative consequences, they will resist embracing the norm of innovation. Instead, they take more conservative approaches and avoid potential negative outcomes. And this backlash arises from the perception that the norm of innovation is not genuinely supported or valued within the organization. Leaders play a significant role in shaping the salience of norms within a group or organization. Here are a few ways leaders influence the salience of norms. First, leaders serve as role models for desired behavior and values. By consistently demonstrating and embodying the desired norms, leaders set an example for others to follow. This process makes the norms more noticeable and reinforces their significance. If we expect team members to prioritize the group interest over their self-interest, we must demonstrate the same behavior. It means refraining from using group resources for personal gain. Likewise, if we expect team members to comply with organizational policies, we must avoid feeling entitled to preferential treatment. We must uphold the same standards we set for others, ensuring that organizational policies apply equally to everyone. This consistent adherence to the norms sets the tone and reinforces their salience within the team and organization. Leaders play a significant role in shaping the salience of norms within a group or organization. Here are a few ways leaders influence the salience of norms. First, leaders serve as role models for desired behavior and values. By consistently demonstrating and embodying the desired norms, leaders set an example for others to follow. This process makes the norms more noticeable and reinforces their significance. If we expect team members to prioritize the group interest over their self-interest, we must demonstrate the same behavior. It means refraining from using group resources for personal gain. Likewise, if we expect team members to comply with organizational policies, we must avoid feeling entitled to preferential treatment. We must uphold the same standards we set for others, ensuring that organizational policies apply equally to everyone. This consistent adherence to the norms sets the tone and reinforces their salience within the team and organization. Second, Leaders have the ability to reward and recognize individuals who adhere to the desired norms by providing incentives, praises, or rewards for behaviors that align with the desired norms. We reinforce the salience of norms and motivate others to follow them. For example, if one of the desired norms is collaboration, we can publicly acknowledge and reward team members who consistently demonstrate effective collaboration. This recognition could take the form of acknowledging their contribution in team meetings, giving shout-outs during organization-wide announcements, or providing tangible rewards such as bonuses or certificates of appreciation. By doing so, leaders reinforce the salience of collaboration as a valued norm and encourage others to exhibit similar behaviors. What would happen if we aim to establish collaboration as a norm, but we end up rewarding free riders who fail to actively participate or contribute to collaborative efforts? Let's imagine a team project where collaboration is expected, but one team member, Abby, consistently avoids active participation. Abby takes advantage of the hard work done by other team members, relies on them to carry the majority of the workload, and dishonestly claims credit for the group's effort. Moreover, because Abby is the most vocal member and shuts down anyone who expresses dissent, we as leaders neglect reaching out to other team members and fail to genuinely listening to their true thoughts. Regrettably, we end up rewarding Abby, perhaps by praising her and promoting her, sending a conflicting message to the rest of the team. By rewarding free riders like Abby, we undermine the importance of collaboration as a valued norm and create a perception that individual efforts hold greater significance than collective collaboration. In this counterexample, the leader's action of rewarding free riders weakens the desired norms. It creates a sense of unfairness among hardworking team members who dedicate their efforts, thereby deterring their future commitment to collaboration. Third, leaders shape the norms through their decision-making processes, policy-making, and policy implementation. By aligning decisions and policies with the desired norms, leaders reinforce the salience of those norms and create a culture that upholds them. Let's consider an organization that values the norm of valuing diverse viewpoints in group discussions. In our decision-making processes, we prioritize initiatives that encourage group members to be the devil's advocate, express their diverse perspectives, and respect disagreement. This can be achieved by establishing policies and guidelines that promote open dialogue. To reinforce the salience of this norm, we can implement practices such as rotating facilitation roles, where different team members take turns leading discussions and encouraging participation from everyone. This ensures that diverse viewpoints are actively sought and heard. Moreover, establishing guidelines for active listening, constructive feedback, and open-mindedness sets the expectations for respectful and inclusive discussions. By aligning our decisions and policies with the desired norm of valuing diverse viewpoints, we create a culture that encourages people to contribute their unique perspectives, leading to higher quality of group decisions. Fourth, leaders must continuously reinforce and reiterate the accurate norms through different approaches, such as regular communication, feedback sessions, recognition programs, and performance evaluation. This ongoing reinforcement helps to solidify the correct norms and counteract any lingering misperceptions. Let's imagine an organization that values procedural justice in the distribution of resources and opportunities. Procedural justice means the fairness of procedures and processes used to make decisions within our organization. It focuses on the perceived fairness of the methods, rules, and the systems used in decision-making rather than the outcome of the decision itself. Procedural justice ensures that organizational decisions are transparent and consistent, which are the foundation of trust in organizations. To reinforce the norm of procedural justice on a continuous basis, we establish clear expectations and make it known that any deviation from the principles of procedural justice will suffer consequences. The consequences can vary depending on the severity and the nature of the deviation. It could be disciplinary measures, corrective actions, or additional training to address the deviant behavior and prevent future violations. By taking those actions, we emphasize that procedural fairness is not merely a suggestion, but a fundamental expectation that everyone is accountable for. This approach reinforces the importance of adhering to procedural justice and serves as a deterrent for people who may be tempted to deviate from fair practices. It underscores the organization's norm and creates a fair and equitable work environment where procedural justice is valued, respected, and consistently followed. The construct of norms is widely used in management research, but it is not without its criticisms. Here are some common criticisms. One criticism is the lack of clarity in defining and measuring norms. Norms can be subjective and context-dependent, making it challenging to establish clear and universally applicable definitions and measures. Different researchers may conceptualize and measure norms differently, leading to inconsistencies and difficulties in comparing findings across studies. Second, while norms are associated with behavior, establishing causality can be complex. It's often challenging to determine whether norms drive behavior or whether behavior shapes the emergence of norms. If an organization has a norm of innovation, it is unclear whether the norm drives employees to be more innovative or if the behavior of employees shapes the emergence of the innovation norm. Interpreting the impact of norms on behavior can be subjective because people can have different interpretations of what the norms are and how they influence their behavior. Third, norms are influenced by cultural, social, and demographic factors, which can differ across individuals and groups. In an organization where employees have diverse cultural backgrounds, the norms of being assertive in communication may differ across cultures. In the United States, assertiveness in communication is often valued and considered a norm. It is expected for employees to speak up, express their opinions, and engage in open debates during meetings. However, in Japan, the cultural norm emphasizes harmony and group cohesion. Being overly assertive or confrontational in communication is generally considered disrespectful and it goes against the cultural norms of maintaining harmony. In this context, employees may adopt a more reserved and indirect communication style, focusing on maintaining social harmony rather than assertiveness. It's important not to assume a single norm across all cultural contexts, and there is a need for contextual understanding. A norm that is effective in one cultural context may not be equally applicable in another. Those criticisms highlight the complexities and the limitations associated with the construct of norms in management research. Addressing those criticisms requires more context-specific approaches in understanding norms and their impact on behavior within organizations. Thanks for watching this video on organizational norms. If you're interested in learning more about theories of management, administration, and leadership, be sure to tune in to my future videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. If you want to know more about how to build a theoretical framework for your research, check out my book titled Demystify Theories, a workbook for developing theoretical frameworks of educational leadership research. The link of the book is in the description below.